Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for part 7 in the Preparedness Testimonies. And if you're new to my channel or new to this series, what it is people, my different followers from Rumble and from YouTube and wherever, are sending me their own preparedness testimonies. And this will be about maybe how they got themselves into a better position without having to spend a whole lot of money, or how their preparedness helped them through some difficult times. So it can go either way or both. Anyway, the whole idea of this series is to encourage people, make them realize you don't have to have a massive pocket full of money to get yourself into a better position. We all have to start somewhere. So with that said, I'll be linking to the full playlist if you'd like to see the first 6 parts in this series, and also the parts that will come after this in the description box down below, so you can access it. If you're enjoying these kind of videos, you might just want to watch and listen to that whole thing. So let's get started. I only have actually 2 different peoples in here because one's long and one's short. So let's get started on this. I started prepping around 2010. I didn't trust the way things were going and had my mom to think about. So I started to put stuff away. I started to buy extra canned goods and storing them. Gradually, I started canning jellies, salsas, and tomatoes. Sounds a lot like some of the stuff I did there. Then a few years ago, I bought a pressure canner, which expanded my world. And this year I bought a dehydrator. So it was a gradual investment and not bought all at once. And trust me, people, this is the most common kind of story. This applies to us as well. Most people started small and worked up. They didn't just blow a whole bunch of money in one day to get themselves in a better place. I started growing things in with my flowers to where now I have raised gardens. What I can't grow, I buy and put up for later use. The benefits have been the basics, like I don't have to go to the store. When I get a wild hair to cook something, I love that. It's one of my favorite benefits. I usually have it, but the best was when I was ill a couple of months last year. I didn't have to go to the store for those months. Friends would call to check if I needed anything and I was fine. They would laugh and say they knew the answer, but just in case. That's great. It has encouraged them to put stuff away for just in case. Love that. That's the whole reason people did this for centuries, was just to get them through difficult times, no matter how big or small. So that's the first one. So let's get into the second one. This is the longer one. My husband and I moved in 2016 to a small farm town to help take care of my elderly father. When the world went nuts, my husband and I figured we'd stay put. We wanted to be prepared to weather a stupid world, but we wanted it to be simple. A lot of prepping advice didn't suit us, and we didn't have enough sun for gardens, so a lot of homesteading methods didn't fit us. We could learn some things from preppers and homesteaders, but for us, we learned more looking back to my grandparents' time and even further. And remember, people, I'm going to insert another thing like I always do. For those of you who are new to my channel, we started right here and we're still doing most of everything right here in just a corner lot in a neighborhood, not even a third of an acre. So we're doing, our chickens, our garden, we got fruit trees, and we do have since acquired a couple more pieces of property, but we're still doing most everything right here, and we started small and built up. My parents had no siblings, so all of my relatives were greats and grands. This meant they lived through the turn of the last century. Major wars, rationing, the Great Depression, raising a family. I always thought you were supposed to be prepared. I kept a pantry to get through months of hard times or job loss. We didn't run to the store all the time because we weren't out and about all the time, and stores closed by 5 p.m. So we had spare parts, tools, fabric, sewing supplies. We learned how to tend to most illnesses, so we didn't run to the doctor all the time. Life was simpler, and we learned how to do things. So remember, Grandma knew how to do stuff. That's how they made it through hard times. Hubby and I looked at what we did have. We had an acre and no regulations. Cool. We have friendly neighbors with wild food-filled fields. That's kind of like a tongue twister. We tried and failed at gardening because we are too wooded, but because I foraged a lot for medicinal and edible plants, we turned the yard into a wild forage area. Great. Bringing seeds and starts of greens, tubers, seed-producing plants. We had fruit and nut trees already. We had room for small animals, and my husband can build anything from used materials. But we also had a low income, no significant savings. My husband has chronic fatigue, and I have back issues that limit how much physical labor I can do. To be honest, my husband and I couldn't fend off hordes like you see in apocalypse movies, but we could prepare for another Great Depression or lockdown. The first step for us was simplicity. I grew up without plastic garbage bags, cling wrap, cell phones, and such, so I already don't use most of what other people stockpile. What we prepared was what we really used. Clothesline, first aid, tarps, etc., alternative lighting, laundry, cooking, etc., had to be easy to switch to. A laundry baffle and a couple of tubs is enough to wash clothes. I found a tiny potbelly stove, besides the regular wood stove in the living room, for just cooking if we need it. Basically, the alternative systems also had to be super simple. Our diet is simple and not packaged. What we have put by over time is a good store of bulk cornmeal, oats, salt, fats, meat, plus dehydrated fruit, veggies, and potatoes, which I do mostly off-grid, about a year's worth now. We dehydrate eggs for winter when the hens are not laying or in case we lose the flock. That's the same reason why I've got a bunch of our eggs dehydrated up. It's simple, fair, and can be extended with fresh meat and wild, fresh foods. We eat from the store now because we can, but I don't try to keep a grocery store in my house. The second is knowledge. I know how to darn and mend clothes and linens. My husband can build and fix, even if it does take him extra time. I have decades of experience with plant medicines and foraging. I can make games and toys for children, and now stories and songs to entertain them. I was trained as a midwife back in the day. I know how to cook over a fire. In 2020, sent home from my job, I studied medieval and colonial survival and lifestyle, as well as more about our Great Depression and war rationing. By the way, that reminds me, there was a channel that's still out there of this elderly lady that was teaching people how to make these different Great Depression era meals, and I already have forgotten her name. I've mentioned her before. I always tend to forget her name, but her content's still up there, and her family is keeping that channel going. So I'm going to find that, link to it in the description box down below. Just an amazing lady with amazing stories and recipes. So that, I loved that. And anyway, I learned some things from that channel. I foraged more and identified dozens more plant foods than I thought were even growing in my area. I learned what the chickens will eat if there's no feed to buy. They free range most of the year now anyway, but in winter they need feed. What if there isn't any? We developed a plan for housing them in the mudroom if it gets to the point where there are marauders. Yeah, that was one of the things I kind of worry about. And we learned how to use gravel, charcoal, and sand to purify water in case we run out of filters at some point. Very good. Patrick also knows how to do all that because he has actually water treatment for many years. Knowledge, how to make medicine, how to stay warm, how to collect and purify water, how to make and mend clothes, how to entertain ourselves without outside entertainment, when to forage what, small animal trapping and processing. We live a mostly normal life because we can, although we've never had cell phones and no TV for 25 years. but things don't look stable, and we want to just be okay and not absolutely SOL if things go wonky. Even with our limitations, and maybe because of them, financially and health-wise, we've chosen the simplest way to get along just fine without spending a ton of money or storing tons of store-bought food and disposables. Awesome. Awesome. I'm loving this. History taught us a lot about how people did it before. No one wants to party like it's $12.99, but if we have to, we will. That was a great testimony. I absolutely love this. So many great points. And one of the things that I really, really like about this is the reminder of how you don't have to have a ton of space. You don't have to have years and years of supplies on hand. If you know what to do, if you have the knowledge, the wisdom, and the skills to be able to grow a garden, forage for food, and so much more. So very great testimony. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I don't save the names in these because I never know for sure who wants their name shared. But, if you hear your story read, feel free, if you want to add anything to that and share who you are in the comments down below. And if you would like to share your own testimony, it can be short or long, whatever you choose. Just send that to raincountryhomestead@gmail.com and make sure you title that Preparedness Testimony so I can drop it into the correct folder. So I hope you're enjoying this series, and thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.